So let's wrap up this series on Breitling and talk about their 2020 releases so far. Hi, welcome back to Not So Obvious Watches. I'm Pete McConville. A couple of months ago, it feels like now, Breitling had a bunch of new releases for 2020, big summit, all that sort of thing. I was taken aback by the negativity that came out from a lot of the enthusiasts, which made me look at Breitling and the way we can think about Breitling in the enthusiast community. That led to me doing a couple of videos talking about this brand. The first was how YouTubers have a problem with Breitling, but also looking at what Breitling's trying to do to change that, trying to broaden their appeal, trying to get away from the big misogynistic, sexist kind of advertising, appeal more to women, get away from the massive watches which only very big guys can wear, and broaden their appeal through Asia, get control of their distribution chains to avoid some of the grey market dumping that's happened in the past, and across the board to kind of excise the memory of the last 20 years of Breitling, of big, brassy, high polish, massive, just in-your-face watches. Then I did a second video looking more specifically at what Breitling's doing to their catalogue and how they've really overturned a vast chunk of that catalogue in the last 2 years and focused very much on what I've called base notes, which are their kind of heritage watches, their mid notes, which are the more contemporary watches, and then high notes, which are those special and limited editions that pop in, make a big noise, and then pop back out again. What I didn't do though was look at particular watches or particular releases. That's what we're going to do today. I'm going to focus on some of the key releases that Breitling has made during 2020 and have a look at how successful are those watches in slotting into that catalogue, in broadening the appeal of Breitling, of trying to reclaim its past glories. And also I'll give my personal spin on each of those watches too. Without doubt, the single biggest release of this year has been the relaunch of the Chronomat. And I've got to be honest, when I first saw this, I was a little disappointed because it just seemed a bit, well, frankly, a bit vanilla. But the more time I've sat with it, which is probably one of the benefits to not jumping straight in and doing the review, the more I've sat with it, the more I've looked at it, the more I've considered what they're trying to do, I now think that for what Breitling is trying to do, it is possibly the single most brilliant release I've seen. As I said, Breitling's trying to drag itself away from the big, gaudy, glitzy, sexist, Teddy Schneider period. And this watch almost pretends he didn't exist. It's a re-release of a late 80s watch, almost just a little bit tweaked, a little bit updated, but with the classic features, the classic look of that Ernst Schneider period Breitling, modernized and brought up to date. It's almost like it's a big statement from Breitling. The last 20 years of dead, long live the new Breitling from what it should have been. And I think it's, like I said, it's a brilliant statement of what Breitling's trying to achieve in this space. It isn't particularly shiny or new. It's not particularly groundbreaking in any way, shape or form. But the Chronomat has always been a good, solid, consistent performer for Breitling, and that's exactly what this watch I think is going to be. Will it win any beauty competitions? No, but on the other hand, it is handsome. It is attractive. There's nothing particularly ugly about it, and there are those little touches around the crowns, crowns and pushes, the little touches around, obviously the Roulaire band, which adds a bit of playfulness, a bit of joie de vivre, and makes the whole watch a little bit different to some of the more staid watches that are similar but a bit more boring than it. The next watch I'm going to talk about is the extension to the Navitimer range. So the Navitimer, about 2 years ago, they introduced a basic three-hander version. Been reviewed to death. Search all over the internet. You'll find lots of reviews of the three-handed Navitimer. I think it's an okay watch. I have no great problem with the idea that the Navitimer must be a chronograph. I think they've captured the basic essence of what a Navitimer is quite well. And this watch is a really smart addition to the range. They haven't pandered. It's obviously meant to appeal to smaller men and to women, but they haven't pandered to either market. It's got the same movements, the same basic design. They haven't blitzed and glammed it up. They've taken the Navitimer 38 and simply made it a little bit smaller, which I think again fits perfectly with what Breitling is trying to do. Not trying to do too much, simply trying to build on its past greatness and do so in a way which is a little bit more fun, a little bit more accessible, a little bit more hip. Personally, it's a bit frilly and it's not really me. I'm warming towards the Chronomat, probably not going to be my watch. I'm pretty confident the Navitimer three-hander isn't going to be my watch. Not that there's anything wrong with it, it's just not my style. A little bit fancy schmancy. What is my style is the next watch, and that is the new Superocean Heritage 57 edition. That is, the moment I saw that, I've jumped ahead, I'm now talking about my things. The moment I saw that, I went, I'm having that watch. At some point, that blue will be mine. And so I've done my bit. Great. I think it's fun, it's playful, it's really clever. I love the fact that it's so thin. I love that there's so much about that I love, and I'll do a big review of that another day. How do I think it fits into the catalog? I think it fits in perfectly. Again, what are we trying to do? Broaden the appeal, be a bit more casual, be a bit more fun, be a bit more laid back, get away from the big, bulky kind of things. This watch captures the zeitgeist which is going on at the moment with the Rado, Captain Cook, with the Zodiac Seawolf, this desire for those kind of fun Cadillac fin style watches of the late 50s, where the designers, like car designers in America, went just a little bit wacky. I think it captures that, and it brings it forward in a really modern and accessible, and being Breitling, it's really well executed way. There's been a fair bit of criticism of this watch for the fact that it's in the Superocean range, albeit the Heritage range, which means it's a diver. It's based on a diver, but it's only 100 meters water resistant, and it hasn't got a screw down crown. I'm really in two minds about this. I'm on one hand thinking, personally, I would have liked a screw down crown, but there's another part of me thinking about what this watch is trying to achieve. A little bit casual, a little bit laid back, a sort of fun and funky feel. And I do find myself thinking that the screw down crown and the fiddliness and the required for that doesn't really fit with what the fundamental use case of this watch is, which is fun and casual, and you pick it up and you throw it on your wrist and you pop the crown and you just go do whatever you do. No messing around with it. So I'm kind of torn. Personally, I would have liked a screw down crown. But then on the other hand, I kind of understand why it's not there. So it's this weird thing of, I can live without it, and I think the watch does its job better without it. So it was probably a smart call. The other big Okay, there was a bunch of other watches released, most of them limited editions. There was the rainbow version of the Heritage 57, which was interesting, but it is so limited and became insanely popular, so sold out super fast. But the watch, I think the other big limited edition watch that's really worth talking about was in the Aviator 8 space, the AVI 765 1953 re-edition. This is just a gorgeous watch. There's really nothing else you can say about it. I think it's a perfect addition to the range. Again, what are we trying to do? We're trying to drag people's attention back to the Breitling, to the years where Breitling was a great brand. Take them back to and reset the clock. This watch is fantastic for doing exactly that, as is the Superocean Heritage 57. Again, dragging people back into the glory years of the brand. What's actually really interesting with both the Aviator 8 AVI 765 and the Superocean Heritage 57 is those two watches, whilst really smart and really intelligent, also indicate the depths to which the brand has fallen and how badly Breitling has managed its own IP. There has been universal condemnation or critique of both of those watches, in that they've both been accused of being a homage of another watch. The AVI 765 has been accused of being a homage of the Breguet Type 20, and the Superocean Heritage has been accused of being a homage of the Captain Cook. That must cause Breitling people, long-term Breitling owners, an enormous amount of pain, because the truth is the exact opposite. In both cases, the Breitling is the watch that came first. The Breitling AVI 765 preceded the Breguet, and the Breguet probably drew from the Breitling. The original Breitling 57 Super Heritage, well then Superocean, preceded the Captain Cook. The Captain Cook almost certainly drew from the Breitling, and yet moved fast forward, and the world seems to imagine it's the other way around. As I said, I think those watches are both great things for Breitling to do, to re-establish where it's at, to drag public opinion back towards what Breitling has been in the past and wants to be again. But at the same time, as I said, they both carry with them a tone of sadness in showing how far Breitling has fallen, both absolutely but also in other people's estimation, and why Breitling has to go through all this work to get itself back out of the rut that it was in. There was a whole bunch of other watches which I'm not really going to go through. They've brought out some new larger 48 Superoceans, which are strange watches, massive titanium watches with soft inner core, iron inner cores, external locking mechanisms on the bezels, dark titanium coated cases. Like I said, they're kind of odd watches. Breitling's made no announcement about them at all. They've clearly got a use case, but I don't think they fit with what Breitling's trying to achieve, which is why they've released them, because clearly they think there's a market, but they haven't made a song and dance about it, because it kind of does run counter to their overall message. I think it's clever the way Breitling have done that, have sought to service people who want that kind of watch, but at the same time just slipped it out quietly. So to sum this up, I think the releases this year are fantastic. I think they do an excellent job of reinforcing everything George Kern is trying to do with the reinvigoration of the Breitling catalogue and Breitling. There's a couple of watches which aren't for me. I don't think I'll be buying the Chronomat or the Navitimer 35, but I am definitely picking up a Superocean Heritage 57, and if I can, I'd be getting the stainless steel AVI 765. Well, I've been Pete McConville, and this has been Not So Obvious Watches. I'd love to hear your comments on the Breitling releases of this year. Do you think they've been successful in trying to make the reforms Breitling's trying to make? Do you like them? Is there anything in there that you might you'd consider buying. Yeah, like I said, leave the comments below. If you like this video, hit the subscribe and like button, and I'll see you later. Bye.